And welcome back, folks. That was rough, buddy.
Yeah, just a little bit.
To be fair, it was your first time doing Bloodborne. I mean, but still,
I have my reasonings, but I,
you got some. So, you've played almost every other From Software game in that line, aside from, I believe you had said Sekiro, correct?
Sekiro, Bloodborne, as well as Demon's Souls, because Demon's Souls and Bloodborne are exclusives to
Yes, they
PS4.
are. Well, for your first experience with Bloodborne, we got into a little bit of it there in the package, but what did you think overall?
Overall, it's what you would expect from all the other Souls games. They're just the way I love looking at those games is that it's kind of like a painting. It's like you look into that painting, and for that amount of time that you're looking, it's as much as you invest into it, how much detail you're looking at. And with those games, you go through it, you can go through that entire thing just on your main goals, just doing whatever you can to get to the end as quick as you can. But if you'd rather take your time with it and explore all these littler details, the things that you wouldn't think about first, then you start to see, and it just all kind of unravels. You get more of that lore and the plot and the beauty that comes from these kinds of games. And honestly, just one of the reasons why I love them so much.
No, I would fully agree with that fact. Aside from the purely aesthetic of the From Software games, which every single one of them is absolutely gorgeous. They are breathtaking. Bloodborne, especially, is my favorite aesthetic of all the From Software games. But it is in that little bit of world building, like looking at the music box and realizing, oh, I'm gonna go murder this little girl's dad, and be like, sucks for you, but I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. And it's in those little moments that I feel a lot of people take for granted, but it does do so much to build the world itself. Now, there is one thing that comes up basically anytime a Soulsborne game does get released, and we touched a little bit on, like the aesthetic of Dark Souls and everything too, and we can wrap those in. But difficulty is notoriously tied to anything From Software makes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the first thing that anybody is going to tell you is just that if you're going in, you're going to expect to die. When you see the red wording, you died. That's what anybody thinks about, and you see it happen so many times. In fact, the amount of controllers that have hit the wall and are now somewhere in controller heaven, the number is probably staggering. But honestly, the difficulty, despite the frustration, that in its own is kind of a beauty in itself, because they always hit you right away with that difficulty, but nonetheless, it angers you and infuriates you, but that pushes you to want to try harder.
Okay.
And that's kind of how you start that journey of figuring everything out with this game and, no longer sucking, I guess.
Yes. I mean, there have been so many entries into the get good style of games, even outside of From Software. We're looking at things like Cuphead and I think Neo is the game, but just so many where there is no visible difficulty slider or choice to it. And I think that's the part that really sends a lot of people off. Because some people, whether it be from like physical disability or just they don't have the time to actually spend to get good, it basically makes these games unplayable for them. So then the question I do want to pose to you, do you think that games should have some semblance of a chosen difficulty?
I would say no. I completely understand the accommodations that come with, easy mode, medium, hard. It makes sense. For some genres, that does work. With From Software and all of the Souls-like games, I think that's something different. In fact, with a lot of like roguelike games in general, where it's just you die and you have to start from the beginning or wherever they set you back to, it's kind of like what we've been talking about. If you add a quote-unquote easy mode to it, then it takes away the entire beauty of the experience. It's like a lot of other things in life. It's that journey and realizing how much progress you've made. And if we're going to like go away from just the difficulty itself, there's so much more to look at just besides the enemy that you're killing. Like if you're sitting in that entire environment, you look around and just looking at all these decrepit buildings, the sky, just everything around you, there's so much to invest in. And it just completely takes you out of the whole idea of just easy mode, or you know what I mean.
I suppose so, but I would also counter that with you could still get invested in the aesthetic style, the decrepit buildings, the slowly crumbling towers, even if you were able to physically choose even just a slightly easier mode. Or even as some games that are newer, because Bloodborne was a 2015 release, so it's been a couple years, even just some semblance of a more adaptive difficulty, where you can do enemies' range will be slightly decreased, or enemies won't be as aggressive in their attacks. Even just something simple as that can make the game infinitely more accessible to numerous people, especially to some who just may not have as fast of reflexes for whatever given reason.
Yeah, to be quite honest, I don't disagree with you to an extent. In fact, I still stand on my point, but I suppose that just describes nonetheless why the Souls games are such a niche genre. And I mean, when you look on streams, I mean, how much of a cash grab people have with those games and just putting themselves through that difficulty, it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
But I don't disagree with you.
No, I can definitely agree to the, I wouldn't necessarily say cash grab nature of the streams, but depending on the premise you set for yourself, I've seen a number of people on YouTube or Twitch or whatever platform they're deciding to stream on being like, I'll gift 50 memberships every time I die, and they go bankrupt within 10 minutes. Another thing I do think is very interesting. If a person has never played a From Software game, like they're aware of it, they've never played it though, I feel like most people will underestimate the sheer difficulty of it. Like, they'll see it and they'll be, it can't be that hard to dodge to the left or to hit at the right time for this, and I would be curious to see your take, or even just to see, like, actual research put in, and this is, psych major, so I'm a big loser nerd. Yeah, totally, woo. But just, if there's any correlation between, I would almost say, ego and skill, specifically in relation to From Software games. Because I would guarantee you, anyone who considers themselves a pro gamer is going to get wrecked in half the time you did, and that is very difficult to achieve.
Yeah.
I have to get a couple digs.
No,
Come
you're
on,
not
man.
wrong.
That was
Okay.
sad.
Okay, I'll put myself on the spot with that one. Going into Bloodborne, I'll admit, yeah, I did have a little bit of that ego where I thought, okay, I've played other Souls games before. This is going to be fine. It's okay. No, we all saw what happened. That's not really the case. I underestimated the game completely, and, I do agree with you that there probably is a correlation between ego and that actually getting into the experience itself. Granted, there are a lot of games out there that sort of emulate a lot of what From Software has done. Granted, it's not the same because of like a lot of reasons, but yeah, I don't disagree with you on that.
No, I definitely can see your line of thinking in that regard. And it looks like we are being told to wrap it up. Unfortunately, I wish we could talk a little. We can continue talking in the back and stuff, but unfortunately, that is about all the time we have tonight here on Homescreen. Thank you all for watching. You can see more episodes of Homescreen and our other custom content on mytv10.uwec.edu. And from all of us here at Homescreen, I don't know why I said Homescreen, good night and good games.